No one warned me that I could love my life and still feel completely lost inside of it. From the outside, everything looked fine. I loved my babies. I was grateful. Nothing was wrong. But when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. If you've ever thought, why don't I feel like myself anymore? This video might explain what's actually happening and why you're not broken. For a lot of moms, this feeling doesn't look dramatic. It's not always crying all day or feeling deeply sad. Sometimes it's much quieter than that. It looks like standing in the kitchen and forgetting why you walked in, or scrolling on your phone at night, not even enjoying it, just trying to feel something. It can feel like your brain is foggy and your emotions are muted. Things that used to light you up just don't hit the same anymore. You're not necessarily unhappy, you're just not excited. A lot of moms describe it as feeling dull, like the color has been turned down on their life. For me, it showed up in really unexpected places. I used to be a personal trainer. That environment was my happy place. It's where I met my husband, where I felt strong, where I felt most like myself. But after kids, that connection just vanished. Going to the gym didn't feel joyful anymore. It felt like another task, something to check off my list, like brushing my teeth. And that was unsettling because the things that used to bring me comfort didn't feel familiar anymore. And then you start to wonder, what happened to me? This is something that researchers talk about when they describe matrescence, the transition into motherhood. There's often an in between phase where the old version of you no longer fits, but the new version hasn't fully formed yet. And that space can feel flat, disconnected, uncomfortable, not because something is wrong with you, but because you're in the middle of becoming. A lot of moms don't call this depression. They say things like, I feel off. I feel disconnected. I don't recognize myself anymore. And yes, for some moms, postpartum depression is part of that picture, including myself. But for many of us, there's also an identity shift happening underneath it all. And just to say, if this feeling ever starts to feel heavy, persistent, or like too much to carry alone, reaching out for support can be a really kind next step. There's also a biological layer to this that doesn't get talked about enough. And for me, understanding this was a huge relief because once I realized my brain was genuinely working differently, I stopped taking everything so personally. Research shows that after pregnancy and birth, the brain goes through real measurable changes. Areas involved in emotional regulation, focus, memory, and empathy all shift. Not because something is wrong, but because your brain is adapting to caregiving. Your brain attunes more to other people's needs, especially your babies. That's incredibly useful for survival, but it means less mental space for you. So when you feel foggy, slower, or less mentally sharp, that's not imagined. That's adaptation. Your brain didn't disappear, it reprioritized. On top of that, postpartum hormone shifts affect mood, motivation, and emotional range. Estrogen and dopamine, both connected to pleasure and drive, fluctuate significantly after birth, which helps explain why joy feels quieter and excitement doesn't spark the same way it used to. Add chronic sleep deprivation, and it can feel like living slightly underwater. You're functioning, but everything takes more effort. There's also the mental load of motherhood, mostly invisible but incredibly demanding. Your brain is constantly tracking feeding times, safety, schedules, needs, logistics. Even when you're resting, part of your mind is still on. And when your brain is always scanning for what someone else needs next, there's less room for curiosity, creativity, or self-reflection. That's where often the identity loss comes in. It's not that you don't have interests anymore. It's that your brain rarely gets the quiet space it needs to reconnect with them. So when people ask, why do I feel so lost after having kids? This is a big part of the answer. Your brain has changed. Your body has changed. Your responsibilities have changed. And yet, we expect ourselves to feel the same on the inside. When those pieces don't match, it can feel disorienting, like you're living in a life that technically belongs to you, but doesn't quite feel like home yet. This is why Matrescence matters. It recognizes that this transition is neurological, hormonal, psychological, not a failure, not a diagnosis, a transition. One of the biggest myths around postpartum is that you're supposed to bounce back physically, emotionally, mentally, but there is no bouncing back. There is only becoming someone new. And that process often includes grief. Not because motherhood is bad, but because transformation always costs something. When we don't allow space for that grief, it doesn't disappear. It turns inward. That's when moms start telling themselves, I should be happier. Other moms handle this better. Why am I struggling when I have everything? And that inner dialogue is often what hurts the most, because instead of understanding what we're going through, we start judging ourselves for it. Research shows that after birth, women don't just add a role, they adapt into a new identity. And that kind of change always comes with grief. Sometimes it's the freedom that you miss. Sometimes it's your old body. Sometimes it's the version of you that had uninterrupted time, energy, or even ambition. And that grief doesn't mean you regret motherhood. It means something mattered. You can love your children deeply and still miss who you were before. Gratitude doesn't cancel grief. Both can exist at the same time. What actually helped me wasn't trying to get back to myself, because the truth is, I wasn't meant to go back. I was becoming someone new. Instead of asking, how do I feel like myself again? I started asking, who am I becoming now? That one question softened everything. It took the pressure off trying to resurrect an old version of me and gave me permission to build something new, slowly. For me, that didn't look like big life changes. It looked like tiny moments of reconnection, 5 minutes of creativity, a walk without my phone, moving my body in ways that felt supportive, not performative. Some days it was just admitting out loud, this is really hard, instead of fighting it. And sometimes it looked like picking up the iPad and drawing, not for work, not to launch a business, just sketching bad drawings for 10 minutes while the baby slept. That wasn't about productivity. It was simply me remembering that my hands could make something other than snacks. It started as a tiny moment of reclaiming space, being present, and eventually that tiny space became the thing that saved me. And sometimes it looked like picking up the camera, not with a plan, not for an algorithm, just filming for fun. Then slowly letting myself film with purpose, getting over the nerves, letting it be awkward, letting it be new. Starting this channel isn't about reinventing myself overnight. It's part of a new era of figuring out who I am now. As a mother, yes, but also as myself. Research shows that identity rebuild doesn't happen through big declarations. It happens through small, repeated moments of self-trust. Trying something, noticing how it feels, and letting that guide you. So if you're in this in-between space, you don't need a full plan. You don't need clarity. You just need one small place where you feel like you, and permission to let that be enough just for now. Here's the reframe that changed everything for me. Feeling lost doesn't mean you've lost yourself. It usually means the version of you from before no longer fits, and the version coming hasn't fully formed yet. That space can feel uncomfortable, dull, disorienting, and lonely. But it's also a place of becoming. You're not meant to feel settled. You're meant to be in the process. If this resonated with you, I want you to know you're not alone, even if it feels like you are. A lot of this season happens quietly on the inside. And if you don't recognize yourself yet, if joy feels muted, if things that used to feel like home don't anymore, there is nothing wrong with you. You're allowed to take your time, and you're allowed to change, and you're allowed to build a version of yourself that fits the life you're living now. This channel is just me walking through that process too, learning who I am now as a mother and as myself. So if you're in a season of becoming, not arriving yet, you belong here too.